In our 10th spot today, we have the surrounding waters of the Drum Point Lighthouse in Maryland, USA. The waters around this lighthouse have quite the spooky past. During World War II, the lighthouse was a target point during enemy strikes, and so the locals had to turn off its lights for protection. Because of the strikes that hit, you can imagine that there were some that didn't survive, and it was said that among those people was a beautiful brunette woman. And it was this woman that the locals have reported to have seen the ghost of just floating over these waters over the years. So yeah, maybe don't go swimming in these waters unless you get some kind of thrill thinking about potentially swimming with a ghost. Maybe that does sound like fun. In our 9th spot today, we have the Blue Lagoon in the UK. This sparkly, beautiful lagoon is honestly breathtaking. I just want to go beside it and take pictures of myself all day long, it's that pretty. But don't be fooled by its outer beauty. These are waters you should not get too close to. It is known that this lagoon actually has an extremely high alkaline pH level. And just to give you perspective, a high alkaline level is typically around a 9 on the acidity to alkaline scale. But these waters are 11.3. Bleach is sitting at a 12. So yeah, that's scary high. Being so high, these levels can cause incredible stomach pain, fungal injections, rashes, ear infections, and much more. Interestingly enough, the water stays cold no matter how hot the weather gets, so you probably wouldn't want to swim in it anyway. But in any case, best to stay clear of this beautiful disaster. In our 8th spot today, we have Potomac River. This is a place that, even though might be cursed, my inner ghost hunter really wants to visit. This area has a very old lighthouse that is known as the Lighthouse of the Presidents, as around 1836, it was a popular destination for former presidents and many people to vacation. There are no records of incidents or violent events that have happened in this area, so I'm sure it may be surprising to hear that there have been many reports of paranormal activity. I mean, if the presidents used to visit, I'm sure there were some kind of JFK-style affairs going on that led to many secrets and lies that would definitely make a person not go on and turn into a ghost. The crazy thing about this area is that visitors actually report being touched by the ghosts. What? And they even hear speaking when no one is around them. It has been said that the director of Potomac River Museum reported that he once spoke out to the spirits and asked if he could move some paint, and apparently a voice replied, "Suit yourself." I can imagine it was maybe more British, like, "Suit yourself," even though it's in America, but he actually has a recording of this incident, which is quite fascinating. Well, this doesn't necessarily seem like a bad ghost. It sounds more like, Casper the Friendly Ghost, which makes me want to go to Potomac River. But then again, maybe not, because it sounds like going there may doom me to being cursed when I die, and quite possibly I'll have to live there as a ghost for the rest of my time. If I'ma be a ghost, you best believe I'm gonna haunt some celebrity I love just to be near them. Most likely, Leo DiCaprio. In our 7th spot today, we have the boiling lake in the island of Dominica. Whenever anything is too hot or too alkaline, like the Blue Lagoon, the energy in the area is very off-balanced. And therefore, the repercussions for engaging in something so off-balanced would inevitably make you off-balanced. It's not always a bad thing, as the world is constantly positive or negative, balanced and not balanced. However, the study of body chemistry has taught us that we can function a little out of balance, being a little higher in temperature, which would be, a fever, or a little colder than normal. But to get into a boiling water, for example, you would probably throw your body off completely. Well, obviously, and you wouldn't survive. That would be the case if you were to get into the boiling waters of the boiling lake. They say that a swim in these waters would be self-induced torture. Most people might see this lake and wrongly perceive it to be a hot spring, which is so unfortunate. I hope someone has made a big sign that says, "Do not swim unless you desire a lobster's fate." If not, I'll make it, because God bless those future travelers that think it's a hot spring. It's definitely a mistake I would make. Let's be real. In our 6th spot today, we have the Skeleton Coast in Namibia in Africa. Yep, I'm sure you can guess why these waters may not be the best place to take the family for a beach day. Skeleton Coast is named appropriately, for it has experienced many a tragedy on its shores. It is said that the Benguela Current is lethal and it causes regular shipwrecks. Not only that, but also the coast is home to, just 11 species of shark. Yeah. And if that wasn't enough, there are also lions and hyenas patrolling the beach. Yep. Sounds like the lions made some kind of an agreement with Poseidon that has led them to have all, easy meals from the people washing up on shore in the shipwrecks. Yikes. Portuguese voyagers have been said to have called this coast the Gates of Hell. Yep, that sounds right to me. In our 5th spot today, we have Point Lookout in Maryland. Man, Maryland seems to have a lot of haunted waters. Should we all just stay clear of Maryland? Ah, poor Maryland. I'm sure it's not all that scary. But unfortunately, this area in particular and its surrounding waters was voted to have America's most haunted lighthouse, so maybe not. When the lighthouse was built, there was a Civil War hospital and a prisoner of war camp nearby where over 4,000 people died. So maybe that's why the waters are cursed. Got it. Locals have reported to have seen spirits of all genders, ages, and moods. I've never heard of an extremely happy spirit. That I want to see. A frequent spotted spirit is that of a soldier who is seen patrolling the area with a rifle on his shoulder. So yeah, maybe swim in this area at your own risk. Wouldn't want to come across one of those angry spirits while swimming. Now moving on to waters with creatures that are sure to eat you, we have the Amazon basin in our number 4 spot. You might look at pictures of this snake-like river and think, yeah, I perhaps wouldn't want to go swimming in here because, it looks incredibly dirty and polluted. And you know what? As true as that might be, there are much scarier reasons that you should probably cross this off of your to swim list. Because this river is cursed with piranhas and barracudas. How nice. And if you are currently unaware as to how dangerous these creatures are, well, they're vicious. And you will most likely suffer a very tragic death if you were ever to go swimming with them. Oh, and if that's not enough to persuade you to maybe stay away from, this river, then just know that there is also another fish called the kandiru that lurks these waters, and if you come across it, they are rumored to swim up your urinal tract and eat your genitals. What's worse? Death by piranha or death by fish inside of you and eating you? Would love to know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'm going with the latter. In our 3rd spot today, we have the Rio Tinto in Spain. So this is a place that sadly has no ghosts or scary fish, but it does have high levels of toxicity. And yes, humans are to blame for this. Curse these humans. This river is a unique one as it is a red river. It is very bright and quite frankly beautiful to look at, which means it's so unfortunate that no one can go near it. That honestly is just a metaphor for so much in life. Why are the beautiful things so often untouchable? There are heavy amounts of pollution in its waters believed to be partially a runoff from a nearby mine, but the lake is filled with iron and other metals and chemicals, so it is highly acidic. So much so that it is believed that a body would dissolve in it if an experiment was performed, of course. Thankfully, that hasn't been done yet. In our number 2 spot, we have some of the beaches in Darwin, Australia. Yes, there are a lot of wonderful areas in this beautiful city, but also some that are cursed with terrifying creatures. But hey, you're in Australia, so maybe expect that? One of the biggest threats in these waters are saltwater crocodiles. Apparently, they are known to be quite sneaky and will sneak up on you and make you breakfast before you've even heard them. Lovely. Think I'll just not go there. These shores are also known to have box jellyfish, so you can pick your poison. Death by being chomped on or death by shock and poison. Just don't swim here. Finally, in our number 1 spot today, we have the Devil's Pool in Australia. Back to the ghosts. I'm not scared at all. The Devil's Pool is a natural pool that has a beautiful waterfall that goes into it, and it is quite lovely, despite the fact that it is most certainly cursed. Yep, the locals are convinced, and no one is going to tell them otherwise. Legend has it that a beautiful Aboriginal woman lost her true love, and from her misery, she drowned herself in the waters. People believe that the spirit of her is still searching for her true love, and so she lures men into the waters only to drown them. Apparently, over 16 men have died there, so if that's not enough cases to convince you, then I don't know what will.
At number 10, we have the Gardner Lake in Connecticut, USA. Alright, we're gonna kick off this list with a tale of loss, mistakes, and a bunch of ghosts having a big party thanks to your massive mistake. We have to take a trip back to 1895. There was a man who lived on just the north end of the lake, and for whatever reason, he wanted to move to the south side. He thought it would be better. This is the ultimate grass is greener scenario. Well, legend says he wanted to move to the south side of the lake, but he didn't want to build a new house. He wanted to take his house that he already had and move it all the way to the south side. Talk about trying to have your cake and eat it too. Well, how is he going to do this? It is so much work to move your entire house. I mean, I've seen countless videos on the internet and it ends with most of them being torn in half. So I think this is something that would be good to avoid, but this guy had a plan. He wanted to wait until winter so he could roll over the frozen lake with his giant house on a sled. A 2-story house fully packed with furniture and a grand piano only supported by ice. What could go wrong? Well, you can guess the house fell through the ice. That's exactly what happened. Now, the guy transporting didn't die in this kerfuffle, but it said that in the middle of the night you can see the house floating on the lake with all the ghosts of the different bodies that have been left in the lake running in and out of it. Some people say you can even hear ghosts playing the grand piano. At number 9, we have Lake Superior in Minnesota. Ghost boat. That's all I'm gonna say. Well, there'll be a little more, but that's the main point of this. That's right, there is a ghost boat that haunts these waters filled with ghost pirates, and if you can defeat them, you'll be richer than Jeff Bezos' wife after the divorce. But well, half of that I made up. There is really a ghost ship, but it doesn't have all the pirates and stuff on it, and there's no money. But it has been sailing the waters in the moonlight. Apparently in 1985, the boat went down with all of its crew. People have seen the ghost boat still sailing the open water, and there have been some scuba divers that went out to check out the shipwreck, and they said that the wreck was surrounded by ghosts underwater. There's deep sea ghosts there too. At number 8, we have the Mattock Swamp in Louisiana, USA. I know a swamp isn't really a lake, but they're both like similar bodies of water, and this one is really cool, so I had to put it on this list. This swamp is not only gator infested, but it is also home to a powerful ghost. There was a voodoo priestess who died in the swamp and goes by the name Julia White. She walks through the swamp telling people that she's not dead yet, but when she dies, she's gonna take every soul with her. And if that isn't enough, there's a werewolf that is said to patrol the swamp as well. See, I told you this one was cool, now we can move on to more lakes. At number 7, we have Loch Ness in Scotland. Who in the world doesn't know about the famous Loch Ness monster? Nessie holds the crown as the king of the underwater monsters, and even though there are hundreds of thousands of people who make the trip over there every year to this lake, there are little to no sightings. Maybe the creature is dead, or maybe it never existed in the first place. But even though people come there for the big sea snake, there are a bunch of ghosts that might start being a nice side attraction. Over the years, plenty of people have drowned in the lake, and there are ghosts now that share the lake with the Loch Ness monster. Some people have reported seeing ghostly figures standing out of the water staring back at them. That really makes my skin crawl. At number 6, we have Drew University Lake in New Jersey, USA. A university lake. I bet you there's a bunch of university students who make their trip down there to the lake so they can make out in the back of a car. Well, if they did want to use this as a romantic lakeside makeout point, then they might get an unsuspecting visitor come and creep on them. The lake is famously haunted by the Lady in Blue. She is a ghostly figure of a woman wearing a translucent blue dress. Very spooky. It's unknown where this mystery woman originated from, but people have their speculations. Because she is in a beautiful blue dress, it seems she could have been on a date at the time of her death. Maybe she went out on a boat in the middle of the lake with someone and fell in and was unable to swim. Or it could be that someone took her there to kill her. No matter the story, I would recommend avoiding this lake at sunset unless you want to meet her in person. At number 5, we have Lake Tahoe. I love this place because it's haunted by a guy who loved to drink more than he was afraid of dying, and you know that means he was a good time. It was Dick Barter who used to make trips from Fannet Island at the center of the lake to the bars at the south end of the lake and then sail back home all drunk. He was confident that his drinking and sailing would one day kill him, so he built his own tomb on the island. Then one day in 1873, his drunk fears came true and he fell into the lake and died. The bummer is that no one found his body, so his grave is still empty, but it's said that you can find his ghost walking around the island at night trying to find his tomb. At number 4, we have Veterans Lake, Oklahoma, USA. If you don't want to get killed by a couple of ghosts, then you should stay away from this lake. There are legends of a couple of spirits that float around the lake and lure people in. They have the ability to get people to walk into the water and then swim out, and once they've gone to the point where it's too deep, the ghosts will drown you and take your souls and probably hang out with you in the afterlife. Could you imagine you get drowned by a couple of ghosts and then you become a ghost and then there's like an awesome ghost party on the lake with a bunch of people who drowned in the lake? That's like almost worth it. At number 3, we have White Rock Lake in Texas, USA. More ghost ladies. This place is haunted haunted by the soaking wet lady in white. This isn't an exaggeration, a lot of people have seen her and they all tell the same story. There's a girl dressed all in white. She looks as if she was pulled out of time from a different era, but she's dripping wet, like she jumped into the lake with all her clothes on. She's shivering, scared, and usually needs a ride home. Then as soon as you agree to take her home, or as soon as she sits down in your car, she will disappear, leaving behind a wet spot. So if you ever want to try and help her out, put a towel down in your seat. It's gonna mess up your new leather. You want to be a nice guy, but she's still a ghost who's gonna leave a wet spot. It's not. I just got the car. At number 2, we have Lake Ronkonkoma, New York, USA. Oh boy, does this lake have a lot of bad mojo around it. Let's say if you're a dude, even if you're a strong swimmer, you might not want to go for a dip in this lake. There is an ancient legend that has been attached to this lake for hundreds of years. The tale about a Native American woman who fell in love with a settler. Oh my, this is very saucy. They knew that they couldn't be together because back then people weren't really open to interracial relationships at all. I mean, it took Star Trek before we even had an interracial kiss on TV, and thank God we did, because now I exist. Well, these two lovebirds decided they didn't care what anyone thought, and they went to run off to a faraway land where they could be in love and be accepted. But they didn't get very far before some people caught up with them, and her lover was killed in the altercation. She was devastated, and she decided that her life without him wasn't worth living. She grabbed some rope, and then grabbed the biggest rock she could carry and a canoe, and set out to the middle of Lake Ronkonkoma. She then tied one end of the rope around herself and the other end around her trusty rock, and then flung herself and the rock into the water, but not before putting a curse on the whole lake. Because her love was taken from her, she decided that once a year the lake would take a young man from someone else, and apparently the curse has held strong for the last 200 years. At least one dude has drowned in the lake every year. That is spooky. At number 1, we have Haunted Lake, New Hampshire. I mean, the place is called Haunted Lake. It's kind of like right on the nose. Of course this place is the most haunted one. You don't call a place Haunted Lake because there's a big marshmallow factory there and Santa Claus opened up his second workshop. No, it's because there's a bunch of spirits hanging around there who watch you while you sleep and knock things over in your cabins. That's what's going on. The local legend of the lake is that every living thing around the lake was killed brutally. And when I say everything, I mean everything, like animals, trees, people, even bugs. There was a raging forest fire that burned through the area and killed all life. Everyone who passed through the area after the fire said they could smell burning flesh and could feel darkness in the air. Now at night, ghosts come out and you can hear them scream out in pain, trying to escape their never-ending burning torment. Oh, that sounds horrible.
Coming into number 10, we have Lake Nyos. Lake Nyos is a lake in northwest of Cameroon. In 1986, it was responsible for the death of 1,746 people and over 3,500 livestock deaths. To call it a deadly lake would simply be an understatement. On the 21st of August, carbon dioxide trapped at the bottom of the deep lake burst out in an underwater eruption that created a deadly gas cloud. The cloud then descended into nearby villages, killing people and livestock within a 25-kilometer radius of the lake. Geologists think that a landslide created the outgassing, and these days measures have been put into place to try and degas the lake before it happens again. Whatever happens though, I really wouldn't fancy swimming in this lake. Coming into number 9, we have Myrtle Beach. Often it's fine to swim in the oceans of North Carolina's Myrtle Beach. However, a lot of the time, riptides create a very dangerous water environment that can pull people out to sea. Not only are the riptides strong, seasonably warm water can bring about the cannonball jellyfish, which aren't deadly but can cause a very nasty sting. Okay, but this water is actually filled with deadly box jellyfish. Never swim in the waters off islands in the Gulf of Thailand at number 8. Not only are tides deceptive, islands in the Gulf of Thailand can be filled with killer jellyfish, especially in shallow rocky waters. The box jellyfish can kill adults and have often been referred to as the world's most venomous creatures. Stay away from me, jellyfish. I don't need you. Yorkshire, what are you doing on this list? I love you. Coming into number 7, we have the Strid. Yorkshire is my homeboy. I love Yorkshire more than life itself, and to be totally honest, nobody goes to Yorkshire to swim in a river or lake. It's just too damn cold. But if on an oddly blisteringly hot day you did fancy stripping off and jumping into the Strid, well, don't. Doing this could probably, and yeah, no, it'll kill you. Just don't do it. The river has a very aggressive undercurrent and a vast number of underwater rocks. Hundreds of people have died by falling in the river, with some saying that the water has a 100% fatality rate. The issue here is that the water doesn't look remotely dangerous, but the undercurrents will suck you down and drown you. Do you want to be boiled alive? No? Well, I guess this one goes without saying, but never be tempted to swim in the boiling lake in Dominica at number 6. You aren't even gonna wanna go close to this lake when it's active, let alone swim in it. The water is heated by an underground magma chamber and can reach up to 194 degrees, enough to literally burn your face off. Great. The reason some people have been swimming in the lake is because it's turned cold due to low volcanic activity. However, it can heat up at a moment's notice. Coming into number 5, we have Bubbly Creek. While it sounds fun and cute to swim in a body of water called Bubbly Creek, it is most definitely not. The body of water in the south branch of the Chicago River is given its name because of the gases that bubble out of the riverbed. Now, the river used to be used as a dumping ground for blood, entrails, and meatpacking waste at the beginning of the 19th century. The decomposing corpses let off gas bubbles as they rot. The river is still known as a real stinker even today, so unless you fancy some kind of heinous disease, I would steer well clear. Coming into number 4, we have North Sentinel Island. It is wildly unlikely that you would end up near North Sentinel Island in the Bay of Bengal, but if you did, you should A, not stop for a swim, and B, get out of there immediately. While the island looks totally idyllic with white sands and crystal blue waters, it's actually home to a tribe that will literally murder you. The tribe is one of the last uncontacted people on Earth and is accessible by boat from India, although people are banned from going due to the dangers from the Sentinelese. This body of water is reported to be cursed. We have Kipu Falls in Kauai at number 3. This swimming hole in Hawaii is a death trap for tourists, with numerous injuries and fatalities at the spot each year. While some locals think that there's an angry Hawaiian water spirit lizard called Mo living in the falls, others think there could be underseen underwater whirlpool currents dragging people to their deaths. The issue has become so big that the local tourism bureau is asking all guidebooks to remove references to the area. While water looks beautiful and inviting, it just clearly isn't safe. Coming into number 2, we have New Smyrna Beach. New Smyrna Beach in Florida is known as the shark attack capital of the world. For those of you that live in Florida, am I pronouncing it correctly? I don't know. Let's not worry about the pronunciation though, let's worry about the sharks because The stretch of water is home to blacktip, spinner and tiger sharks, and they will go for humans, especially tiger sharks, which are known to hunt in shallow waters. In 2014, a video was shot of sharks surrounding swimmers in the water, which is enough to scare me off ever wanting to swim there. Okay, what could be worse than shark-infested water? Water infected with radioactive waste. Great! Never swim here at number 1, we have Lake Karachay. This lake is one of the most polluted spots in the world. The water is filled with radioactive waste from Mayak, one of Russia's most prominent nuclear weapon factories. It also contains nuclear fallout from Chernobyl. The lake was a nuclear dumping ground during the Soviet era, and it's thought that spending just 1 hour by the water would be enough to kill you.